The thunderous applause at the end of my screening scares me. This is gonna make $1 billion, isn't it? Hey there, cinephiles. Today I'm going to review Despicable Me 4, and I cannot pretend to be excited about this one. This is the fourth Despicable Me movie, not including any of the spin-offs. And before I get into the many wrongs about this movie, I did want to touch on some nice stuff. For example, there was this one kid sitting next to me that was humming the Universal theme. And you know, that's really the only silver lining about this movie. I got to hear that little future cinephile hum a movie studio's theme. As for the rest of the time, what's crazy to me is that the last film in this franchise, Rise of Gru, was actually kind of cute and way better than this. Now, why a prequel spinoff from 2 years ago is better than a core franchise film? Well, I'll get into the reasons why. This had me constantly looking at the screen like this. During those moments, I was asking myself, why is this popular? So many people in my audience was just absolutely eating the movie up, even though there are so many jokes and plot lines that are been or done that. And in fact, there was at one point in this movie where they could have went back to a joke to make it all the funnier, and they didn't, which made it all the more frustrating because they kept going for the easy jokes that, honestly, if you watch about 10 movies in your lifetime, you've gotten 90% of these jokes before tenfold. But the audience loved it, and I felt crazy. And as for the plot lines in this movie, this is plot lines galore. It kind of felt like a bunch of short films with the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like all the alphabet plot lines that are going on in this movie. It felt like a movie that was made by its toddler target audience. I saw a Letterboxd review called this ADHD in filmmaking, and that's spot on. There were multiple times where this movie just said, hey, we're doing this and we're moving on, and we're doing this and we're moving on, and it's all supposed to be important and lead up to something, and I just did not care for any of it at all. It honestly kind of just felt like it was devoid of any true human element in this film. Almost like AI filmmaking has started to happen, and oh man, this is just gonna be so heartbreaking when this blows away the box office. And what's crazy too is that I heard a woman at the end of this screening say very out loud that this was better than Inside Out. Obviously referring to Inside Out 2, but no, just no. And I'm not the biggest fan of Inside Out 2, but Inside Out 2 is leagues better than this. And getting into more specifics on why I just did not vibe with this film at all, well, the animation didn't look great. Like visually, I don't know, it's just something about the way that this was animated. I didn't like what I was looking at, like at any moment. In general, I'm never usually blown away by Illumination's animation, but their films have looked way better than this before. Personally, to me, this felt like it was probably supposed to be a bunch of short films that were released on Peacock, but instead they realized that the Despicable Me franchise is worth billions of dollars, and they just put it all together and released it in theaters. It just felt so corporate and bland, and just from the voice casting and acting overall, a lot of it just felt stale, and like people were there for a paycheck or for in interviews for them to say, I did this movie for my kid, and that was the only reason they did it, but they showed no true emotion or backing in their performance. It just felt like Celebrity Hour or a host of SNL who didn't really know how to act, which sucks because there are clearly very many talented actors that are voice acting in this, and this just feels so mediocre and really below that, but don't really want to say it because it feels kind of mean. And I understand that this is a kids/family movie and it's not completely made for me, but it just feels like there's a lack of effort in 99% of this film. And the part that felt most like a cash grab of a franchise that I just don't really care about is that ending. Shocker, they cover another song in this film, which funny enough, I heard it earlier in the day, but this cover is just not great, and it just brings on cameos that, sure, I recognize them, but I just do not care. Overall, this is a movie that I watched, and I can say, yeah, I guess it's a movie with a theatrical release. It just feels like a shell of a film, and man, it deeply saddens me how much the audience enjoyed it. Like, I'm glad they did, right? It's not made for me, it's made for families, but even then, I still heard some kids that got kind of bored halfway through this film because the pacing is atrocious and there's just so many subplots going on, and I don't know how people cared for any of it. I don't know if it's because of the short attention spans that they kind of kept re-upping on their attention, just being like, oh, that's pretty funny, it's kind of a new short story or whatever, but overall, the film, I could not care less about this. I'm truly at a loss for words because I wanted to at least enjoy my time with this, but I am disappointed even though my expectations were so low with this dated feeling movie, both in animation and plot and just about every single aspect of filmmaking that there is. Honestly, I thought my analytical brain was being too harsh on this while I was watching the movie, but now that I've sat with it for at least a couple hours now, it's kind of gotten worse in my head. And look, this may be one of the year's biggest blockbusters, which and many people will probably love this and leave comments under this video saying I'm of the wrong opinion, but I'm glad you enjoyed it if you did enjoy it, and if you comment that, that's your prerogative. But I truly, from the bottom of my heart, just feel like this is such a disingenuine film that it's honestly kind of an insult to family films. If you want to watch a family movie, just rewatch Inside Out 2 instead. I give Despicable Me 4 a 1 out of 5 stars. Also, I gotta say, for all this villain stuff in all of these films, Doofenshmirtz would obviously kick the butt of any of these villains. But alright, those are my thoughts on Despicable Me 4. Be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. Also, let me know what your favorite Despicable Me movie is. This is now a 14-year franchise, which kind of blows my mind. As always, thank you guys for liking, commenting, and subscribing. Be sure to stay tuned for more Yeti Films content, and I'll watch you later.